Venerated President, ASBM University and esteemed Chair of the conference, Dr. Biswajit Patnaik, Vice Chancellor, ASBM University and Co-Chair of the conference, Professor Kalyan Shankar Rai, Pro-Vice Chancellor, ASBM University, Professor Falgu Niranjana, esteemed panel members, Venerated President, ASBM University and esteemed Chair of the conference, Dr. Biswajit Patnaik, Vice Chancellor, ASBM University and Co-Chair of the conference, Professor Kalyan Shankar Rai, Pro-Vice Chancellor, ASBM University, Professor Falgu Niranjana, esteemed panel members, conveyor and the coordinators of the conference, delegates, members of faculty and staff, and my student colleagues. This is Faiza Firoz, a student of BCom second year at ASBM University. A very good morning and a warm welcome to all of you to the panel discussion session on Building Resilience, the Way Forward. Today we have with us Professor Ashok Kumar Das, Vice Chairman, Higher Education Council, Government of Odisha, Mr. Bharat Chabra, Head Change Management L&D, TP Central Odisha Distribution Limited, Mr. Radhesham Mahapatro, Director HR, NALCO, and Dr. Suvendu Das, MD, Hiteshi Consulting as esteemed panel members. I now request all the panel members please come to the dais. I request Dr. Smarky Patnaik, conveyor of the conference, to introduce the guests.
Esteemed panel members and the moderator, Honorable President, Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, coordinators of the conference and eminent guests in the audience, the delegates, my faculty colleagues and students. I deem it a privilege to introduce the eminent members of the panel discussion today. First, we have with us Professor Ashok Kumar Das. He is a distinguished scientist and an alumnus of Utkal University. He was earlier with Bhava Atomic Research Center, BARC, as head of its Laser and Plasma Technology Division. He was the Vice Chancellor of Utkal University. Now, Professor Das is the Vice Chairman of Odisha State Higher Education Council. He has presented more than 1430 papers at various conferences, workshops and symposiums at the national and the international level, including countries such as Russia, Italy and South Africa. Dr. Das has been a member coordinator in different 5-year plan projects and is also a member of the advisory committee in the Department of Science and Technology. He has won several awards and commendations. We welcome you, sir. Next, we have with us today Mr. Bharat Chabra. Mr. Chabra is the Head of Change Management and L&D, Tata Power Odisha. He is a management graduate in HR and has over 26 years of work experience in the areas of HR, L&D, corporate affairs, customer and relationship management with some of the leading conglomerates, namely DCM Daewoo, Coca-Cola India, etc. He has been with Tata Power DDL for over 18 years with hands-on exposure in HR operations, employee relations, etc. We welcome you, sir. Next, we have with us Mr. Radhesham Mahapatra. Mr. Mahapatra joined NALCO as Director HR on 1st January 2022. He started his professional career as a probationary executive in NHPC in the year 1989 and scaled higher positions in other CPSEs like Engineers India Limited, Coal India Limited, Central Coalfields Limited in his professional journey. Prior to joining NALCO, he was associated with Central Coalfields Limited as Director. He is the recipient of Golden Peacock Award for his valuable contribution in the field of HR. He has received Best HR Award and Leadership Award by World HRD Congress. Shri Mahapatra was Regional VP of Eastern Region with Chairman of Ranchi Chapter of NIPM. Now he is the Chairman of Utkal Chapter of NIPM. In December 2021, the World Human Rights Protection Commission has conferred the honorary degree of Doctor of Human Rights and Social Work to Shri Radheshyam Mahapatra. We welcome you, sir. We also have with us today Dr. Subhendu Das. Dr. Das is a people management expert, spiritual scientist, life transformer, thought therapist, professional trainer, inspirational speaker, mentor and author. Currently as the founder and managing director of Hitachi Consulting, he is leading the consulting practice in the areas of people strategy, IR, employee relations, organizational change space, learning and development, etc. He advises and guides industries in designing programs and interventions, supports all the interventions for MSME, large and mega industries in public, joint and private sectors. We welcome you, sir. Dr. Jason Pandya Wood joined University of Nottingham Malaysia in June 2020 as the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, where he is responsible for strategic and operational leadership of schools spanning businesses, economics, education, politics and international relations, media and languages, and applied psychology and English. He is a member of the management board of the university and sits on the Senate of the University of Nottingham. Dr. Jason's research and teaching expertise in the social policy with a particular focus on how we govern through and intervene in the lives of individuals to resolve or mediate social problems, risk and uncertainty. He could not join us physically today, but he has been kind enough to share a small video sharing his thoughts about ASBM University. We are really elated to have such eminent dignitaries today. I again welcome all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Professor Jason Pandya Wood, Dean University of Nottingham, Malaysia, will give a prelude to the theme of the conference. I request that the video be played.
Such an important one as we begin to adjust to the new world in this period of recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. The last 2 years have seen many restrictions and kind of constraints on the everyday experiences that we've been able to normally enjoy. Our work lives, our family lives, our radius of movement within our own neighbourhoods has to a large extent been constrained. And many of us have lost loved ones as a result of this pandemic. The social, economical, technological and political implications of this are now well known. But I'm interested in the long tail of COVID-19, the things that actually we don't yet know about. What happens to all of those delays in hospital treatment? What happens to the long-term economic impact on small businesses or worldwide corporations that might be thinking differently about how they plan for the future? The long tail encourages us to think about the long-term mental health impacts on people who have been isolated for very long periods of time, who may have been separated from their families, or may have been experiencing economic hardship. So the theme of resilience is really important. It encourages us to think about what strategies we as individuals and collectively we can employ to overcome some of the challenges we may yet face. I'd encourage us to move a mindset away from crisis response, which is what we tend to focus on during those early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is, in a sense, comparable to putting out a fire, putting the water on the flame so that it douses down, to a mindset which is about preparedness for the future. And we can think of this in two ways. Number one is, how do we begin to support people to come to terms with those longer-term shocks or impacts of COVID-19, those long-tail issues I described before. But it's also about being ready for the next big crisis. Look, I'm a fairly young guy, but I know that in my lifetime, I've seen a world economic crisis and a world global health crisis, and many other such sizable events. So the challenge for the future leaders, for the people attending this conference, for people like myself and my colleagues, is to think how we can be ready, how we can learn from this COVID-19 experience, to think about what went well and what we could have done better. And that, for me, feels like the strongest and most convincing way to build resilience. It's about knowing what the capabilities and capacities are that we need to build in individuals and collectively. So these 2 days are going to be very, very exciting indeed, and I'm really looking forward to reading the outputs from the conference. And I'm hoping that the next time that you host one, I will be able to join you in person. I hope you enjoy and get much out of these next 2 days, and some stimulating and engaging conversations about the future collaborations you're looking to build will come out of it. Best wishes to you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Suvendu Das, Managing Director, Hiteshi Consulting, is the facilitator and moderator of the session. I request Dr. Das to initiate the session.
All of you. Thank you. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Devo Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Namaskar and good morning. Are you all awake? I couldn't feel that energy. Namaskar once again. That's better. It shows that all of you are alive, right? And only people who are alive, they are resilient. Dead bodies cannot gain resilience. Do you agree with me? So I welcome all the esteemed panelists present over here who are the veterans in people management in their respective domains: academics, research, managing people in industries, manufacturing, providing services. So you have a variety of experts who are going to share their perceptions and thoughts on building resilience way forward. So when this topic came up, I was just thinking about, because we talk of resilience more post-COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to that, the word existed, the situations existed. There were a lot of stories on resilience before that also, but it became a buzzword post-COVID-19 pandemic. And now, both organizations, academics, industries, everywhere, they are trying to build resilience. So, just because I find a lot of faculties and students over here, so I would like to mention something about what you mean by resilience. So I scanned through some dictionaries also. The English Cambridge Dictionary says that it is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness. And somewhere also it is mentioned that resilience is the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, the originality, what we otherwise call elasticity. If there are science students, they must be understanding it better. When to come back after being bent, stretched, or pressed. People who understand Hindi better, resilience means लौटाव, पलटाव, प्रतिरोध क्षमता, लचीलापन, समुत्थान शक्ति, लचक, प्रत्यास्थता, प्रतिस्थितित्व and प्रत्यास्कंदन. And people who are more comfortable in Odia, resilience means punah karana or sthirata. So in such a situation, what is meant by building resilience? If you really want to build resilience, what is actually needed? So to build resilience means to adapt very well to adversities, trauma, tragedy, and or even significant source of stress. So with this prologue, I would like to, because we have about 35 minutes with us, since we are delayed, till then, we'll try to maintain our timing. And I will request our panelists, because we will distribute it to a kind of a question-answer session, so that it will be more interesting, focused, and there will be no overlapping of issues. Meanwhile, if our audience who are there, students and faculties, in case you have any questions also to the panelists, you please note it down. We'll carve out 5 minutes for questions from you also, and we'll shoot at the panelists also. To start with, I will start with Professor Ashok Kumar Das, who had a tremendous experience in research and managing fantastic university as Vice Chancellor, the Utkal University, which is NAC A+ accredited. All of you must be aware of that. Sir, I would like to ask you, according to you, what are the factors which can build resilience specifically in a research or an academic institution?
Morning all of you. Morning Das Babu, all the dignitaries off and on, and students. Actually, my understanding of resilience is a little different. I was hearing Lachilapan. Now, I don't think Lachilapan describes resilience very well. Lachilapan has come from the word elasticity, where you recover. People, science students should know that elasticity is this. Lachilapan, to an extent, in Sanskrit, if I take it literally, probably Sthita Prajna. I think in Odia he told Sthirata. I think Sthita Prajna, Gita, Sloka 55 you have heard. Jo dukheso na udgnamana, sukhesu vigatas priya. So when you have a disaster, don't worry about it. And when you are very happy, don't get ecstatic and forget your objective. And that, if this as a fundamental principle you remember, that is fine. And that will get you what is known as resilience. Now, what you need to be resilient is a very general thing, and you can all follow. If Das Babu permits, can I tell a story for 3 minutes? So I'll tell you a story which I have seen. Now you all are looking at Russia-Ukraine war, and you all have realized for a country to survive, its own national security and developing it is very important. Some of you would remember, India became an atomic power and developed its first atomic bomb in 1974. And Pokhran test, first Pokhran test was in 1974. After 1974, the Department of Atomic Energy and particularly Bhabha Atomic Research Center were not able to import even a nut and bolt, because they say a reactor would use a nut and bolt. Forget electronic circuits, forget transistors. Now, that day, the organization decided that it will build everything itself without importing anything. And you see, that path it took. It built nuclear reactor, it built a fusion device and a fission device, it built its missiles, and you see in 1998, Buddha smiled again, and you saw the second Pokhran, after which it said no. Now why I said this? This is called resilience. You had a disaster where everything in this country in engineering and science were being imported. You stopped the import. One organization worked on the most advanced technology without getting anything from abroad and still survived. How? First principle, build your basics. You all are management student, resilience is part of your course. First, build your basics. When Homi Bhabha started the center, Rocket Boys, all of you must be seeing in OTT, he decided that we will be self-reliant and built everything. That was your basic. In human beings, your family life, your physical life, your health, your food, your relaxation are your basic. Second was relationship, building a background which will support you. India had built a background with the then Soviet Union and lot of other countries. That did help us in terms of all the Western countries going away. Third was the learning. When you built a thing and have a band of 5,000 scientists working for you, you built your learning, built your skills yourself, and you repair your equipment yourself. You need not depend on anybody. So build your learning properly and proportionately. And the fourth is have confidence in yourself. Understand yourself. आपका जो आत्मनिर्भर भारत has come out in last 3 years. The Atomic Energy Department is practicing it for last 60 years. So Atmanirbhar Bharat came then. So realizing its own self. And the last one is, if you have a disaster, how do you cope with it? What is the most familiar feeling that you have? You have a fear of the unknown, fear I will get my target or not, fear whether I will die, whether I will fail. But remember, lot of learned people have said, the only thing to fear is the fear itself. And if you want to achieve anything, it is beyond that fear and you must. So I think all that I have told you is something which probably Martin Luther King Jr. probably once said, that if you want to go to your objective, if you cannot fly, then run. If you cannot run, you walk. If you cannot walk, you crawl. But crawl and advance and go to your objective. That is resilience. That is the best definition of resilience I could come up with, which can relate to all of you students individually. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Thank you, Professor Das. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Radhasam Mahapatra, who is heading a mammoth Navratna company in Nalco and managing people, and earlier he had managed NHPC in very tough situations in Jammu, Kashmir and Northeast also. So, I would like to ask you, sir, why organizational resilience is important and why it matters most?
Very good morning to one and all present in this august house. It is indeed a pleasure to participate and give my personal experience in different parts of the country, dealing with people and simultaneously improving the productivity, production and profitability. So I will summarize all my experiences in life for last 33 plus years with three things, three types of disturbed situations. First, I was in Jammu and Kashmir for 12 years in different areas, different power projects, power stations, starting from Gantamulla, Baramulla, Srinagar to Doda district, then Udhampur district. So in different power projects, where I entered J&K, at that time only stone pelting was going on. From 90 onwards, the culture of gun started, and the bombarding and all the news which you were hearing or seeing in the TV, that we were visualizing there practically. So during the peak militancy, when it started from 90, peak militancy started. So in that situation, working with the hydro project, where the areas are located in very far off from the town, city, and also we have to see that electricity is generated and transmitted. So how the people, when people were killed like anything, and whenever there is a bomb blast, people, 10 people, 20 people were killed, either in the station, railway station, airport, on the way, in the market, in office, anywhere. So one can be killed, one may be killed at any time without notice. That was the situation where we consoled our people, we took the confidence of people, and we trusted our people to be more, they're cautious, as well as production and productivity of the companies to be the highest priority. So from Jammu and Kashmir, I went to Northeast, which was more dangerous than Jammu and Kashmir. Because at that time, Northeast was just, extortionist problem was at peak. Everybody has to pay, otherwise nobody can stay. That was the system there. And when I went in Manipur, Loktok power station, so at that time, just before that, head of the power station was killed by militants. KYKL group, you might have heard. So KYKL group and NSCN IM group, that you must be reading in the newspapers, as well as in TV you must be seeing. So there were 4 very large militant groups, extortionist groups, not militant. They were taking money from each and everyone. He may be a shopkeeper, he may be a barber, he may be an employee, he may be a police, he may be anybody except the army and perhaps the governor of Manipur. Whenever we used to go to Imphal, we meet our governor at that time, Bed Marwa Saab. So he used to tell that perhaps I am the sole person in the state who is not paying to this industry. Otherwise, everybody used to pay. Otherwise, sustenance was quite difficult. So, how to generate electricity, which is generally in remote areas? Our powerhouse was away from the headquarters, and also it is away from Imphal. So, despite all these odds, the production and productivity, profitability of the organization was at its peak, because we used to keep the morale of the people, morale of our employees and the periphery villagers high. This is one condition, terrorism and extortionism. Then I went to Engineers India because I was in head office, so there was no such problem. Then I went to Coal India, and most typical part of the country, most typical organization in Coal India was Central Coalfields Limited. So I joined there as general manager. There was rampant corruption in every field, in every walk of life, starting from mine area, headquarters, corporate office, everywhere. So that was the culture. Coal is black and culture was also black. So despite that, how we changed the system, and transparent system was introduced starting from recruitment. Everything was done manually at that time. We introduced OMR system, and this is the first subsidiary in Coal India out of the 8 where I introduced the OMR system, and results were without human interference out. And at that time, with human interference, the results were coming after 6 months, 5 months, 8 months, like that, because so many pressure groups were there, including our own trade union leaders, outside political leaders. So many morchas were there in the Jharkhand state. Different morcha, land ousti morcha, das morcha, several political parties. That was the culture there. So the moment I introduced OMR system, everybody opposed, including the head of the company. No, this will create havoc and everybody will be dissatisfied. No, I took the stand that we should be transparent and the deserving candidates should get appointment. So I continued there as general manager for 4.5 years. Then I got selected as a director personnel of Central Coalfields Limited and posted there only. So I brought all the, whatever the, within the purview of HR, recruitment, appointment, compassionate appointment, because at that time compassionate appointment was, Coal India is having the scheme, if anybody dies, the successor, the legal heir, wife or son or daughter eligible, whosoever, they will get one employment. So around 500 plus deaths were occurring. Some may be within in the course of and out of employment, otherwise maximum outside employment area in some villages or somebody. So whenever any death occurs, they will carry the dead body and keep in the mouth of the mines. So you cannot enter, you cannot come back, you cannot go back. So this was the situation for last 30-35 years since the inception of Coal India. So we took a decision that we will process with time gap, reasonable time gap, that the employment should be given within 90 days of death of any employee. This was the step we had taken within 90 days. So generally whenever one family member dies, so another 1-2 months people are keeping very sad. So they cannot come to office to fill up the forms. So we introduced that, let us go to their house, fill up the forms, whether thumb impression or signature or whatever may be. So we went to, after death 3-4 days, we went to their house, their home. He may be in the colony, he may not be in the colony. If he is from Bihar, UP, so we sent the representative from the department to go to their home, fill up the form. There should not be any wrong. So unit level, that will take maximum 15 days. Then it comes to the area level, because each area has 7 to 8 mines. So area level, they will scrutiny, they will do the formalities, whether it is as per purview of the rules or not. So they will take 1 month. Then it will come to the headquarter, corporate office, Ranchi. So there, I constituted a committee of 3 GMs. They will scrutiny everything, and after that, they will recommend whether it is in the purview of rules, yes or no. Yes, why? No, why? So they were given another 1 month. So maximum period was 90 days. If anybody crosses 90 days, that means he is a culprit. His intention is, bona fide intention is doubted. So almost 99% cases were settled within 90 days. Even some cases were settled in 60 days, 45 days. People were astonished, because there we had leaders, about 4,000 plus leaders were there, out of 48,000 employees and some 12,000 contract laborers, around 60,000. Yeah, please. So there, 60,000 plus generation, plus their families, means around 4 lakhs in the village, besides the villagers. So the system, when we introduced, all were happy, those who were getting the appointment letter. But the leaders were not happy, because they were extracting money from these poor people, these poor uneducated people, these poor coal workers. So they put pressure not to do the system. They put pressure, we should go away from the present system. The previous system was better, because physically everything was done. So I took the stand, and we told that no, this system will prevail. Before any leader comes to their front, we gave the appointment letter. So there was so much happiness among the people, particularly the widows or the orphan children who lost their parents or father or mother. So that was the condition. We made a system which ultimately developed this. Then I came to NALCO. NALCO, the moment I came to NALCO in 2020 January, at that time the situation was very good, but in March pandemic came. So government allowed only 30% staff to work. After that 50%. So with this, how production and productivity will increase? We will meet the target. But we kept in contact with all the union leaders, associations, officer association, trade union leaders, villagers. Every moment we talked over phone or BC. And the production and productivity increased so much that last 41 years records has been broken this year in terms of productivity, production and profit. This could be possible only we trusted people, only we kept the confidence on people and facilitated the villagers, facilitated the people around our area of work. So this helped. So 3 situations I have explained which I faced in my life, and also we helped people. Whatever the problem of people is our problem. That's why people kept confidence in us, and every sphere of life we have improved the production, productivity and profit. Thank you very much.
Great, Professor Dr. Mahapatra. You have mentioned that focus on the objective of the organization is vital in spite of any obstacles, whether it's terrorism or externalism or COVID, whatever it may be. As Professor Das was just mentioning, crawling and inching towards achievement of goal in spite of adversities, that is building resilience. Thank you very much. Now we have Mr. Bharat Chabra. He is the head of change management and L&D of Tata Power's Central Odisha Limited. And as all of you may be aware, Tata Power has taken over the entire power distribution in Odisha in different formations of companies, which was earlier known as CSUSB. And it has gone tremendous change and transformation during this last 2 years almost. And he being the change leader in TPCODL, I would like to ask you, Mr. Bharat, as you know, to have resilience in any organization, it is the people who matter. So what are the capabilities or competencies you perceive that people should have so that they can build resilience in themselves as well as in the organization?
Thank you, Dr. Shivendu Das. My regards to the founder president, Professor Biswajit Patnaik, the learned seniors here, the co-panelists, and to all the future leaders of tomorrow. Are you there? Are you there, fully active and alive? इस तरफ से तो एक्टिव है. Is this side okay? All right. So we heard Professor Ashok Das, who spoke about that how do you remain prepared for tomorrow. लचीलापन से getting ready for rebound. और राधेश्याम महापात्रो जी ने बताया कि what they did which made the NHPC or NALCO pride. He talked about what he have done. I will touch upon some of the things which are in the present. Organizations are made of people. Organization are group of people, right? So we are doing few things to simplify. I would require the participation of 7 stars or the future leaders of this hall. I want 7 volunteers to stand up. We'll try to cover it quickly. Any volunteers, future leaders for tomorrow? 1, 2. Only 2? 3. 4, 5. Where are the girls? Come on. 6 and 7. All right. All right. So 7, the first 7 can be there and the rest can sit down. So you are the first one. So I'll talk about 7 things that we are doing now to rebound with a greater force for Odisha. हम लोग अब अपने उड़ीसा में बात करते हैं कि now Tata Power has come in and we have the best of talent here in Odisha. ना कभी पैर थकते, ना कभी हिम्मत हारी. ना कभी पैर थकते, ना कभी हिम्मत हारी. अब की बारी ओडिशा की बारी. So in Tata Power has done a lot. This is the first fully private integrated power sector company, but in the distribution it came into 2002 only. And we have passed the success story of Delhi, then Mumbai and some sort of Ajmer. But ab ki bari, Odisha ki bari. So what the Odisha has done in the last between close to 2 years now is really remarkable. So we have taught 3 things to our leaders. One is the caution, courage and compassion. 3C, you can remember? For any organization, for leaders, especially during the pandemic period, we have taught them 3 things. Caution, courage and compassion. Caution that we are into a pandemic period, we have to be very cautious for ourselves, for our people, for our stakeholder, for our customers, right? Courage, we cannot sit behind. If we look back the pandemic period, which we hope becomes a thing of past, Everybody was sitting and working from home, learning from home, doing things at home, doing mobile, digitally, everything. But there was one thing which was integral and essential to every one of that. That was the electricity, which was power. So when we have to deliver you power 24/7, we need to teach our leaders to be courageous enough to ensure that doctors in the hospitals are able to give treatment to the patients. Teachers are able to teach online. Students can remain connected on mobile, WhatsApp, they can keep on their learning through YouTube and whatever learning mechanism that you find, right? And the third one was compassion. Because many things were not in our control, how do we take care of our employees and our related stakeholders, take care of them? So compassion was the third thing that we taught our leaders. And for our people, for our employees, what we are doing now in present are 7 C's. So first one is competence. All right, remember? So who was the second? So let's have the numbering. 1, 2, take a number 3, 3. Who is 4? 4. Who is 5? 5, 6, and 7, right? So first one is the competence building. We have to have the competence of what we need to do and how we need to do. So the technical competence, the leadership competencies and other areas. So for being resilient, we have to rely based on our competence. Simple. Number 2, confidence. Have belief in our own self. We are making sure and supporting that we have a belief in yourself. You have done it in the past and you can do it now. If we took a simple example, every day, each one of, are we not being resilient? Every day at the night when we are tired, our batteries are down, we sleep, take rest and rebound the next day morning. Isn't it? Are we not practicing resilience? Are we not practicing resilience? कौन कौन लोग हैं जिनका कुछ लोगों का लग रहा है एनर्जी अभी भी डाउन है, they are not resilient. Are we not resilient here? So be participative. Show that energy that you have here. All right. So the confidence. Third is about the control. What is in my control? I will not crib about what is not in my control. इसने ये किया होता, कंपनी ने वो किया होता, ये ऐसा हो गया होता, वैसा हो गया था. No. What is in my control? What is my responsibility? I take charge of that control. So number 3, we have the control, right? So first one, what was that? Competence. Number 2, speak up. देखिए मैं पावर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का आदमी हूं, अगर फ्रीक्वेंसी अगर मैच नहीं करता ना तो ट्रिप कर जाता है, तो वी नीड नॉट ट्रिप. Confidence. And the third one, control. Then we are teaching our people to connect. Number 4. Number 4. Who is number 4? So connection. Connection amongst ourselves. Remain connected socially also. We are trying to do some ways that if we have a Utkal Divas, let's celebrate together. We have to socialize among selves so that if I need your help, you are there. If you need my help, I am there. If I need help from somebody in the finance, if I need some help from commercial, so we are all connected. Is that right? So in any place, in any business you are in any organization you are in, these 7 C's are going to be the key for each one of your success. Okay? So connection, 4. Clear? Then 5th, contribution. We are saying that we are doing our job, now let's give back to the society and the community. As a part of Tata legacy, we ensure that whatever we are taking from the community and the customers, we must give many times back to that. This is what Tata legacy or Tata ethics, Tata values are. We have created some commercial and vocational training centers. So if we are able to contribute to the society, it brings in lot of self-pride, self-confidence also, that yes, it enhances my self-worth. It is very, very intrinsic and very, very helpful and very, very powerful. So the 5th thing is contribution. What does that mean? contribution is like giving back. Forget about Tata. Giving back of something that you have received, give that back, help others. Even your colleagues, your friends, help others. All right? And the sixth one, what is sixth one? The coping skills. So the coping skills, that when we are in a difficult situation, how do we cope up? And naturally, when we are here in Odisha, this is my experience, we have seen that people are tremendously resilient. In this part of the country, we see a lot of cyclones every now and then. Last year itself, we have seen 3 cyclones. So in these 3 cyclones, how do we cope up with the challenging environment? So that was very, very essential and very intrinsic and very valuable quality of our people. And we ensure that they are able to do that. What we did is, this time is be more planned. Let's ensure that resources are available. Right? And the seventh one is the character. The most important thing on everything which is built up. We need to be clear of our values, that what we can do and what we should not be doing. If we know what is right, we can find ways of doing it. And also when we say that this is wrong, this we should not be doing as an organization, as a human being, as a person. So then we also know that these are our boundaries, that we need not cross these boundaries. So once we build up that character of doing what is right, we can find every way of doing things. So seventh is, all right? So these are the 7 things we are doing now, but alongside that, we are doing lot of technology adoption. There is no other choice but to adopt technology and see how we leverage technology for improving the quality of life of people, business and community. And the other essential skills, analytic, being problem solving, quality tools, the data modeling, predictive analytics. So these are the other enablers that we are using with technology and these skills and preparing our people for tomorrow. And I can assure you, आने वाले दिनों में Odisha is going to be the next story for Tata Power. So we'll just close with the 7 C's. 1. Sorry? अगर वोल्टेज अगर कम होगा तो नहीं चलेगा. All right. 7. All right. So these are the 7 C's we are doing, which are important and essential for today and tomorrow to be resilient today and prepare for the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bharat. You have explained it excellently. Now coming back to Professor Das. Sir, you inspired me to quote a sloka from Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 2, sloka number 52. Jadate moh kalilang buddhir vyatita rishyati tada gantasi nirvedang stotya vyastha sutasya cha. When your thought process gets over its insane desires, then you will become indifferent to world through what you have heard, and that has to be heard. So that means from a disturbed state to a state of sthita prajna. That is what is resilience in tough times. So coming back to you, sir, I would like to ask that what are the dimensions of any organization one should focus on to build resilience?
I think the dimensions, by and large, most of the panelists have indicated, particularly the 7 C's can be reduced to 3 dimensions basically. But again, I would take this to reflect back to resilience again. I think it is better to realize the dimensions through an example again. Let us come very close to our own place, the pandemic. and the pandemic management of the state of Odisha. आप सब लोग, all of you, have seen right from the day one, when the pandemic started, we had nothing. We had no preparation, and we had only one organization which was able to do the RT-PCR. And what was the capacity at that stage? I think 700 or 900 was the daily capacity. And we needed somewhere around 5,000 tests to stay ahead of the curve. You remember? We had no masks, we had no gloves, we had no PPE kit, and there was no medicine. You remember the pandemic. And there cannot be a worse disaster that came. The doctors had no idea. You remember, we started with some quinine kind of drugs, then ivermectin, then there were a host of drugs tried, and even the plasma, blood plasma, was extracted and given. You remember what happened. Again, on the background of the common dimensions, what did the state do? The state initiated an emergency purchase procedure with it organized a structure by which IAF airlifted the machines to Odisha overnight. Overnight, you went from 900 to, I remember, 3,000, and from 3,000 to 5,000. I do not think any other state could do this. The second was the background building of the structure, one of the C's that Sir talked about. You remember Subrat Bagchi coming every day, I think 4 o'clock in the afternoon, talking to you. Why do you think he talked to you and gave all information? The only idea was that to spread the information amongst you of what the government is doing, what each organization is doing, what the administration is doing, so that there is a network being built amongst you and unnecessary fear doesn't come. You remember that. Third, first the government hospitals and private hospitals and some of the private organizations came on, and COVID situations where beds, wards, oxygen beds, oxygen concentrators, they all started coming. This is despite, you remember, there were a lot of scandals that politicians brought in, कि इधर पैसा खा गए, उधर पैसा खा गए. I don't think the political class, the administration looked at it. They went ahead, and you found that everybody got treated. Most of the people, I have got COVID twice. I never had deficiency of a hospital, and I did not use my government position. I just went to the OPD, COVID OPD, stood there and tried to get treated. The next major part, research and finding out what was happening. There are, AIMS was here, Indian Institute of Life Science was here, and you remember all universities which had a PCR machine, the PCR machine was taken away into a central place so that RT-PCR can be built. Municipality, we all deride, Bhubaneswar municipality, that it may not be very effective. I have again told my wife and mine both have got it twice, and every time the test has been done, in the evening there will be a phone call, sir आपका positive आया है, आप कोई डॉक्टर को दिखाएं, ये दवाई ले लो, 7 दिन के बाद सर आप कैसे हैं, आप कहाँ हैं, and I used to get a call, and that is part of the structure. So learning basic structure, the basics, then relationship, and then coping up. Now the coping up part was again Subrat Bagchi, and you saw after some days he vanished, and some people started telling that he has been banished, he did something. But once the fear is gone, once there is a level at which you have reached, the management becomes an automatic flow structure. And we could immediately, if it is Omicron, it was found out. If it was Delta, it was found out. And you imagine the worst part of second wave, when oxygen was not there, Delhi people were dying. Ahmedabad, one of my students died because she could not get oxygen. It was a terrible situation. Odisha was sending oxygen by tankers. That is called resilience management. My suggestion to all of you students would be that there would be failures. Resilience is built on 4 or 5 dimensions, major dimensions. One is make your basics strong. Second, build your relationship to have a support structure. The third is learning and skill, the technology of management. And the fourth is confidence in yourself. Take everybody into confidence, have clarity of vision and clarity of path. And last and most important is once you take a decision, don't be afraid. Take the challenge head on. I will end with, these are the major 5 dimensions. Michael Jordan, all of you young people know, the great basketball star. Somebody asked him, उसको किसने पूछा कि सर आप फेल्योर तो आपके जिंदगी में हुआ नहीं. उसने बोला मैं 3000 करीब शॉट्स बास्केटबॉल शॉट्स मारा है, जिसमें 300 were failures and जिसमें 30 shots were such that my team lost because I could not score. But I took it out. I went back to my basics of throwing a shot and hitting a point, and that helped me because my basics was there, my background coaches were there, my learning skills were there, and I was not afraid. I think all of you students, this should help you. I am only re-emphasizing it. I hope, sir, I have answered.
Thank you very much, sir. The dimensions of back to basics, building relationship, learning and skilling yourself, confidence in self, and accept challenge and don't get afraid of taking decisions. Thank you very much, sir. Is there any questions from the students or faculties which you want to ask the panelists? If not, I am going to ask one question on behalf of the students to Mr. Radhesham Mapat. Sir, you tell me, as students nowadays with the kind of situations in a VUCA world and the amount of stress and strain and both physical, emotional, psychological they are facing, you please advise few points as to what they should do individually to build self-resilience.
It is really very important for each one of us. Whatever I have learned with passage of time in different locations, in different situations, I can summarize in 2 to 3 points only. Number 1, we should be thorough in our work. Whatever we do, we should read properly what is the rule position and what is the any judgment, Supreme Court, High Court judgment, that we should be thorough. Professionally, we must be sound. Number 1. Number 2 is we must do some meditation, finding time. That regular meditation will help each one of us. That will give a resilience to our mind. If our mind is strong, certainly we may be, physically may not be so strong, but that will make us so strong. Number 3, we must work with conscience. Whatever my heart tells, I only do that. Whatever my mind says, I sometimes neglect that. But whatever my heart says, I try to do that only. Sometimes I face problems, but that has helped a lot to my people, to my organization, and to my neighbor villagers, because they like the people who work from heart. So these are the, I think, concisely I can tell, these 3 points will certainly help you also to do the best and be a best HR leader, be a best industry leader, and also a good citizen of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now the last question to Mr. Bharat. Being a change manager and bringing about learning and development in people, can you please advise this August gathering who are sitting here that in order to build resilience, either individually or in any organizations, what are the way forward? One should take some concrete actions to implement or build resilience.
I would say that let's focus on karmanyevadhikaraste. Karmanyevadhikaraste. We understand that? We have heard that? Last bench. Last bench. Have we heard? Karmanyevadhikaraste. So this is the only thing which is in our control, and this is the only thing that we need to do. See, change is happening by default, whether we like or we don't like it. But the success is optional. Change is happening, but the success is optional. परिवर्तन, बदलाव होता रहेगा. अभी ये कोविड पेंडेमिक आया, लेट्स होप ऐसा कुछ नहीं आए, बट कुछ दूसरे चैलेंज लाइफ में आता रहता है. We move to different life stages, from student life to a professional life to maybe after some time you will go for some other new business, new vertical, you may get into a new life, married life or other responsibilities. So life will keep on changing. So what we have is karmanyevadhikaraste. And I would tell you two things to keep that in mind every time. One is the learning orientation. Always be open to learn that I do not know now. One. And the second, equally and more important, is action orientation. कर्म योग, कर्म करना है, सीखना है और करना है, सीखना और करना है, सीखना और करना है. तो डेफिनेटली सक्सेस इज गोइंग टू बी योर्स. लास्ट में दो लाइनें सर, अगर आप विद योर परमिशन, टाइम काफी ले लिया. हमेशा जिंदगी में याद रखना है, सीढ़ियां उन्हें मुबारक हों. स्टेयर्स होता है ना, हिंदी समझते हैं सब लोग. सीढ़ियां उन्हें मुबारक हों जिन्होंने छत तक जाना है. बोलेंगे सब लोग, रिपीट करेंगे स्टूडेंट. सीढ़ियां उन्हें मुबारक हों जिन्हें छत तक जाना है. एक बार और जोर से मिलके. मेरी मंजिल है आसमान, रास्ता मुझे खुद बनाना है. ये विश्वास रखेंगे, लर्निंग ओरिएंटेशन, एक्शन ओरिएंटेशन करेंगे, तो स्मॉल इंप्रूवमेंट से यू विल रीच मच फार अहेड ऑफ मेनी ऑफ योर कंटेम्परेरीज और पीपल अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. सो विश यू ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट, विश यू अ लॉट ऑफ सक्सेस. थैंक यू.
फैंटास्टिक. सीढ़ियां उन्हें बनाना है जिन्हें छत पर जाना है. मेरी मंजिल है आसमां, रास्ता मुझे बनाना है. Very aptly said what is the way forward for building resilience. So, just to sum up, in case some of you have skipped over, because I know having your span of attention continuously for more than 40-50 minutes is difficult presently to the digital age and the new millennium. So, just to summarize, the factors or dimensions which Professor Das mentioned about resilience, how to build it, basically focus on the goals in spite of any disaster or obstacles, be in the state of sthita prajna, build your basics, enhance your relationships, have the learning attitude and build your own skills, have confidence, and make fear to fear you. That's very important, क्योंकि all of you must have seen the ad of Sprite, डर के आगे क्या है? All of you are awake. Thank you very much. Mr. Radhasam Mahapatra shared fantastic experiences of terrorism and extremism in Jammu, Kashmir and Manipur, the challenges he has faced and the policy initiatives he has taken in central coalfields, and also in spite of COVID-19 pandemic constraints, how NALCO has achieved greater heights. He explained it beautifully. Mr. Bharat Chabra, in order to build resilience, he jotted out 7 capabilities. What are those 7 capabilities? Competence, confidence, control, connection, contribution, coping, and your character. Coming to individual resilience building, Mr. R.S. Mahapatra touched upon, has to be how to be thorough in your work, what you are doing. Have exercise, both physical, mental, and also whatever work you do with your heart, your conscience. And again, coming to the dimensions of building resilience, Professor Das mentioned about how to do your confidence building. And the examples of Subrat Bagchi meeting the press every day, non-stop for months together at 4 p.m. That was a confidence building measure by the government amongst the people who are already in a state of panic. He talked about research, also another dimension to build resilience. And in order to manage the resilience, how again you have to look upon back to basics, the building relationships and all, the same things he has mentioned. And one of the important points he derived is accept challenges and take decisions. Then only you can build resilience. And then ultimately, the icing on the cake was given by Mr. Bharat. He mentioned about karmanya vadhe karaste. I will put this cues to the audience. Fill the blank. Karmanya vadhe karaste, dash. Those who have mentioned, please give them a big hand. Thank you very much. And then he touched upon that we keep on moving or transition from one life stage to another. And there, if you really want to build resilience, the way forward is have a learning orientation and action orientation, and that is what is called Karma Yoga. So with this, I would like to thank all my esteemed panelists and the lovely audience, at least who are all awake, alert, and responsive. And at last, I would like to thank Professor Biswajit Patnaik for having given me this opportunity and to interact with you all very much. Thank you so much.
I now request Professor Kalyan Shankar Rai, Vice Chancellor, ASBM University, to come to the dais and present mementos to our esteemed panel members as a token of gratitude. It was indeed an insightful and informative discussion. I'm sure the audience has surely got some food for thought today. Thank you, esteemed panelists, for your wonderful deliberations. With this, we have now come to the end of the session. Thank you. Now I would like to request all the audience to please move to the mini auditorium for the technical session 1. It will begin now.